From each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are. From memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried. And with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight. Reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey. And on today's episode, we are diving into the 17th Walt Disney Company's feature-length film from July 29th, 1950, Treasure Island. Treasure Island is the first live-action complete movie. There's no animated parts of the entire film. This is the return of Bobby Driscoll, our favorite Disney child of this era, because he is everywhere. I think actually we're coming to the end. I think that he might only have one or two more after this. And I definitely had never seen this adaptation before. You?
No.
Yeah, no. It's weird to me that I even had access to this VHS tape because I never even knew this existed as a child. So would you like to hit us with a synopsis or maybe some opening thoughts about this Treasure Island here?
Sure. So, the treasure-seeking adventures of young Jim Hawkins and a pirate Captain Long John Silver is basically the synopsis of this movie.
Yeah. So Jim Hawkins is Bobby Driscoll's character's name.
Mhm.
He is a child.
Mhm.
I'm also pretty sure that Jim Hawkins is also the name of the character from Treasure Planet from the 2000s. So it should
don't
be
think I saw that one
a
either.
different adaptation about that. So it starts off in kind of a pirate town, I guess.
So it was actually called The Sea Cook, A Story for Boys.
Oh,
As a novel, but then they changed the name. It was written by a Scottish author, Robert Louis Stevenson. It was supposed to tell the story of buccaneers and buried gold. It was supposed to be considered a coming of age story, and it's noted for its atmosphere, characters, and action. I don't think Jeffrey and I thought there was any action.
or atmosphere.
We felt so lost watching this.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it's probably the first one that we agreed on. Neither one of us enjoyed this film.
Yeah,
I mean, it had its points, but there was lots of. Do you even know what's going on?
Yeah, like
in this movie?
I love films, hence why we did this. I love Disney.
Yeah.
I love coming of age movies. I love pirates. I love a lot of things to do with this, and I don't know what was going on.
Also, where you mentioned this is the first like full live action, no animation. Walt Disney actually did consider putting a brief animated sequence in this film, but then he decided against it. It was going to be an animated sequence called Reynard the Fox.
Oh.
Not really sure how that would have fit in here, but it would have been a story told to Long John Silver. And then he decided to ultimately leave it out, obviously, because it's not in there. And then the concept art developed by the animators for this sequence was later became the basis for the 1973 film Robin Hood.
Which is going to get a huge higher rating for me.
I wonder if the animation could have saved it.
I just didn't know what was going on. Like I get it, but I was so confused.
It didn't really hold my
It didn't
attention.
hold perfect. Did not hold attention. So let's just try to dive into it.
It definitely was not a very coming of
we
age
we meet Jim
for us.
Hawkins, the boy who's played by Bobby Driscoll. He's talking to, I don't know, somebody he lives with, some lodge owner
Yeah.
who is an older gentleman who the doctor told him that he can't drink, and all he wants to do is drink rum. Um,
I don't blame
there's a
him.
lot of rum in this film. All he wants to do is drink rum, but the doctor tells him that if he has any more rum, he's gonna die. Um,
I don't
he
even remember that.
he gets the famous pirate's black spot, which is something that comes back in many pirate movies, which is something I knew about. He gets the black spot, which means he's a wanted man.
Mhm.
And
So going back to that, coming back to the pirate lore and stuff. So since the publication, Treasure Island has been a significant influence on the depictions of pirates that
Mhm.
we see in pop culture today. Like one-legged pirates, deserted tropical islands, treasure marks with an X that marks the
black
spot,
spot.
and pirates perched on their shoulders, like
Parrots. Yeah.
or parrots, sorry, perched on the pirate's shoulder. So it did significantly change how we see pirates in pop culture today.
Long John Silver, who we do meet, he's the gentleman on the cover here. I guess he's kind of the main character. I don't know if he's a good guy, the bad guy, some guy in the middle. I don't even understand. He is actually credited for popularizing the stereotypical pirate speech with like
Yep.
the army, mateys, and stuff like that. So if
And I
you
think
if you're
it's
into that,
actually-
he's
I think it was like how, like wherever he was from, I think that's it must have been how they talked, because he just kind of talked about like traditionally about like how people talked from wherever he was from.
yeah. So
in the United
he
Kingdom.
coined the pirate speak, which is I love
Yeah.
the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. I love the Pirates of the Caribbean ride before the movies even came out.
Mhm.
But so there's a lot of speaking that, so like that's cool.
Mhm.
But I don't know.
Oh, and going back to the parrots, Long John Silver, Long John Silver's parrot is named Captain Flint, and it is the only female role in this entire movie.
Which is weird because isn't Captain Flint whose treasure it was? So is the parrot named after the old? Okay.
I would assume that the parrot was named after.
So again, his shopkeeper guy dies because he drank rum like his doctor wasn't supposed, but he ends up getting killed because he has a black spot. But Jim Hawkins gets brought down to meet up with this Long John Silver character, and then I think that timeout. The shopkeeper gives Jim Hawkins the treasure map. So he has the treasure map. But he's hiding the treasure map from everybody.
Mhm.
But then he gets they somehow get to the ship, but the ship is under British rule because it's flying the
Union Jack.
Union Jack.
It was a
Go ahead.
Union Jack flag that we have never seen
Yep.
before, so I don't
Um
I don't know what version it was,
So-
but it was a different one.
so they get onto this Union Jack ship,
Mhm.
but Long John Silver's on there, even though he's a pirate, but they don't know he's a pirate. And
Yeah, it's like Long John Silver must have had his own crew, and they must have been looking for a crew to go on this expedition
Mhm.
because it was like a crew of like British seamen and then Long John Silver's crew somehow together. It didn't really explain
but
it
they were
very well.
both like nervous about the other people. They were nervous about
Yeah,
there being a mutiny, which there ended up being a mutiny. Um,
spoiler.
yeah. If you couldn't tell by the cover. So we're on the ship, and some people have guns when they're not supposed to. Jim Hawkins is eating an apple, so we have the Disney apple.
Yeah.
The ship takes off. There's a storm. It's a doozy of a storm. Like water's pouring in all different holes of the ship and
There's your
everything.
whole nother Disney storm.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop keeping a track of actual numbers of films because we missed two of them. So 2 films ruined it. So I will just point out whenever there's a
Disney
storm.
Disney Apple. During the storm, Long John Silver has made friends with our little
Jim.
little character Jim, and he was making some kind of plum dessert. I forgot exactly what it was called, but he was like, and the best thing is to make the flavor really come out is rum, but I need extra rum.
Mm.
And
It's all about rum.
he's like, "Oh yeah, my mom used to make that." And he was like, "And the rum's the best part." "Oh yeah, it makes it really good." So he's like, "Too bad I can't get like a whole nother serving to make it." And then little Jim's like, "Oh, I can probably get it for you." So he goes and gets Long John Silver a whole nother bottle of rum to make this dessert. He makes the dessert. Um, and then one of the higher ups from the British guys or whatever, he was about to go up on deck during this horrible storm where it's just like dumping. And Long John Silver's like, "Hey, I made this dessert." Da, da, da. And he hasn't come eat this. And he's like, "And you know what really brings out the flavor? This rum." So he pours the rum on it in front of him. Then he sets the bottle of rum down. And the guy just like eats it and he's like, "Oh yeah, this is really good." So then he starts drinking this bottle of rum. And then he like staggers out to the top. And then Long John Silver doesn't even have to kill him because he's drunk and he falls off the edge. So the next scene is the next morning where they're having this funeral for this guy. I don't even remember his name because
Yeah,
he
and
just
then
drunkenly
and then
walked off the ship.
they land ho is happening sometime around now too.
Yeah, and then the doctor was spinning the ship around, and so he was like navigating, and he was talking to our little boy, and he's like, "Oh, when do you think we'll get to land?" And he's like, "Oh, you can always tell there's sights of, or there's certain like signs of land." And he's like, "Usually, when we start to run low on apples, like
Just apples.
that's a sign that we're land ho." And the boy's like, "Oh, we have a few more. I'm gonna go eat every one of them then." And he's like, "Oh, well, go bring me one." So our little guy goes down to the barrel. He can't reach into it because there's so like there's only a few left, obviously, but they're all the way at the bottom, and he can't reach to the bottom. So he actually climbs up on the step and jumps into the barrel to get the apples.
People can't see him.
Yeah, and people can't see him, and then he accidentally overhears Long John Silver like talking about like his plans for mutiny and how they're gonna get the treasure and da da da. And then this little boy is like, "Oh, I've been scammed by this man."
The quote was that everything Lon John Silver told me was a lie.
Yeah, so he goes and tells the captain, the British captain of the ship and stuff. He's like, "This is what's going on. This is what they're planning." Um, so basically, he tells on him, and then the British officers ask him to still be friends with Long John Silver, so that way he won't know anything's going on. But then like he can also like report back to them and kind of tell them what's going on. Um, so they do find land, and I forgot what they called the little boat, but he asks to go with Long John Silver, and he gets permission, and the captain's like, "Sure, you have my permission." So they get on these. I think it's I don't think they called it a dingy. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Anyway,
just an escape boat.
something else. Anyway, so there was two of them going out, and then one of the other pirates that kind of like always overrides Long John Silver, he like causes like this whole scene to happen. They get locked up, all the pirates do at that point. Um, and then
Because yeah, go.
because he had a gun. But they were trying to um overthrow the people so they
Mutiny.
could get all the guns. And it didn't work out for them. But then they heard like gunfire and stuff. Then they turned around and they were like pointing their guns over at Long John Silver on this boat, and he like holds his knife up to our little boy's
Yep, he says,
neck.
"Fire that musket," and I cuts his throat.
Yeah, so he basically uses him as leverage to make treaties, what he's planning to do. Um, they make it to land. The kid runs off, and he's
Pocket just
trying.
runs away. Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to like hide, and then he finds this man.
Okay, time out about this man. And I know that you.
He's actually probably my favorite
I know
character
that
in the
you.
movie.
Well, before we dive into this, before pause about this man, but something I didn't want to interrupt you while you were speaking, but you know, in Pirates of the Caribbean, like the ride at Walt Disney World,
Mhm.
where they obviously have added Pirates of the Caribbean to the ride, but before that, there was not Sparrow all throughout the ride. So, um, there was a scene where like now it's Jack is hiding in the barrel,
Mhm.
like watching the guy's map. So before that, it was like a pirate. So I wonder if they got it from this movie. where he was Hawkins was hiding in the barrel. But sorry, I wanted to say that. I didn't want to interrupt you though.
Who knows?
So we meet this guy, and I know that you don't like it when I jump ahead movies, but you know in Aladdin where Jafar takes the like the he's trying to like lure them into the Cave of Wonders, and he takes like the guise of like a crazy old man who's like missing his teeth and stuff. That's who this guy was. Like it was 100% had to be the basis of that.
It reminded me of Castaway.
Yeah, he was just like
Like this
he was
guy
just like
was
he was an old frail man. I wrote his name down somewhere. I don't remember.
be
what-
gone.
Gunn.
Be gone.
Ben Gunn.
Are you sure?
Ben Gunn, I think.
Be gone. I thought it was been gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So
'Cause I was like, that's pretty funny. His name's
yeah,
been gone
Ben,
because he's
yeah.
been gone for 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years he was marooned. I'll let you go back to the story, but they around this time they do get to raise the Jolly Roger on the ship because
Yeah.
they were able to throw over who was left. Well, mutiny over who was
Yeah.
left. Go ahead.
So the British officers find this fort that's on the island. So they go there to get a vantage point. And our guy, the main guy, Jim,
As a
Jim?
kid, yeah.
He hasn't found them yet because he's still with
Ben.
Ben. Ben tells him, I've got a boat. We could try to take that. And he shows him the boat, and he made it out of bamboo and sheepskin. So this guy made a boat within the 5 years he's been there, but it doesn't sound like he's ever tried to escape. But you know what? In the boat he had, I probably wouldn't try to go anywhere either.
We also hear the pirates around this time with the Yo Ho Ho and a Bottle of Rum song, which is
Yeah.
a famous pirate thing as well.
Yeah. And then the pirates somehow break free on the ship, and they overthrow the ship, like we said.
Yep, the Jolly Roger.
They raise the flag, and then I guess that's when Ben and Jim realize they can't go to the boat now. So,
No.
Somehow Jim finds the British officers. He kind of tells them, I found this guy, and this guy was like, oh yeah, tell him to meet me, da 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 da, and come by himself. And I was like, that sounds weird. But then the pirates attack them in the fort. A lot happens, like the fight scenes are ridiculous in this movie. They kind of make you want to laugh.
They get even more ridiculous when. Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
I don't even think you can cut me off.
So at some point after all of this, Hawkins gets on one of the little boats and he goes back to the ship.
Yeah.
And he makes
And I
his way
guess
back to the ship.
there's only 2 guys on the ship or something.
Yeah.
That made no sense to me.
And they realize that Hawkins has the map.
Mhm.
When he's back on the ship, they realize that after all this time, what they're looking for, the kid has. So he is so into the idea that he has to change the flag back.
Mhm.
So he puts up the
Because the British officers were basically saying they needed, if the pirates the next morning, they could basically just blow the whole fort down with all the cannons and
Mhm.
stuff on the ship. So they're like, we basically have to move the ship and get it out of the way, but there's no way we can do that right now. And then Jim's like, oh, and be the hero, and he like sneaks off in the middle of the night and goes and does this.
and he switches the flag back to the
Yeah,
to
so
whatever it's called.
there's 2 pirates on the ship. He sees them. They're fighting with one another. One of them starts to walk back up the stairs, and the one that's down the stairs apparently throws some like a knife or something and like stabs the guy in the back.
Mhm.
The guy falls over, pretty much dead. And then he staggers up because he's drunk because they've been drinking rum all this time. And then him and Jim get into an altercation, and
Jim climbs the crow's nest.
yeah, he climbs up there. Then he falls after he's killed the guy.
So yeah, that's what I was gonna say about there being a brutal scene, whereas he's chasing him up the crow's nest.
He gets stabbed in the arm or the shoulder,
He throws the knife at him, stabs him,
and then he shoots
and
him
he
in the
shoots him
head.
in the head, like right up, straight up in the head. Guy falls to his
You
death.
don't really see anything. It's really not a violent movie. It's kind of hilarious. And then he falls. And Jeffrey got so upset because he's like, oh, he can survive that, but somehow he survives this fall. But anyway, where he lands, he sees the Union Jack laying there, so he like takes the time to change the flags out.
Mhm.
So then the pirates think that the British officers have retaken the ship. And then later on, it's discovered that the Doctor finds out after he's trying to make another bargain with Long John Silver. And I guess they had slipped out of the thing, so they're not technically in the fort anymore, and the pirates are in the fort, but Johnny doesn't know that, and he apparently has blood poisoning and like passes out.
Jim does.
Yes.
Jim had blood poisoning from when he ventured back to the island in his
Yeah.
wound from his stab.
Probably because he washed it with whatever water was on the
Exactly.
island. Anyway, Long John Silver won't let the other pirates kill him.
He gets the black dot.
Yeah.
They give him the
and
black dot.
Then they give him the black dot, but he was like trying to take care of Jim. Which he does several times throughout the movie. Then he makes a deal with the Doctor. Because at that point, I don't think the pirates knew that the ship had already been taken over. But he did. So he tells the Doctor this, and the Doctor's kind of like looking at Jim like, what are they talking about? And then I guess that's kind of how like they find out that the pirates aren't on the ship anymore. And he pretty much cuts a deal with him. He's like, stay close to the boy, and I'll try my best to make sure that you don't get hurt or whatever, and you get a fair trial. So then Long John basically tells them that they're not gonna leave with just the map. They want to leave with the treasure, and they're not gonna give up the boy until they have the treasure. So then Long John had this map the whole time, but
That he got back from
yeah,
Jim, yeah.
but acted like he didn't have it until he made the deal with the Doctor. Then he came over, showed the pirates the treasure map, and then he was like gonna resign or whatever. And then they're like, "Oh no, don't resign." And then he leads them all to the treasure, and then there's nothing there.
Yeah, so
Nothing.
they get to the treasure and the treasure is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And we do see and realize that Gunn had dug it up. Ben Gunn had dug it up and has hid it in his cave. So then
I
this
swear I thought his name was Ben Gone. That was funnier to me.
so he had dug it up in this wild old man, and I just if you haven't seen this movie, and honestly I don't even know if I recommend you watch the movie, but look up who this dude looks like. So they go back to the cave, and like there's treasures everywhere. I'm talking Scrooge McDuck would be so stoked to dive headfirst into all those coins.
Yeah.
So now do you want to go back to what's going on in the story while we're bringing it home?
So, basically they start loading up some of this treasure to take it back to the ship. And then,
There's Long John Silver,
yeah.
Jim Hawkins, whoever the British officer guy is, and then two people who they're making do the rowing that aren't wearing shirts.
Yeah. One of them's wearing a shirt, the other one's not. And then I don't know, Long John turns on him.
Yeah, so he steals the gun, and he makes everybody jump overboard,
Except for Jim.
except for Jim.
And then
So then Jim has to start rowing.
yeah, and then Jim's rowing, but he doesn't want him to get this treasure and be off on his own.
So he beaches him.
So he takes him over and puts him up on the land because
Beaches him, yeah.
Long John's not paying attention to what's going on. I think Long John was actually rowing. Jim was steering the boat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
he steered him into the
So he
land.
beaches him. But Long John Silver can't force himself to shoot Hawkins.
Yeah,
He
because
was
he
gonna
only has
shoot him.
one leg.
And he was gonna shoot him, but then he was like,
Trying to talk him into pushing him back out into the water. And then you see the British officer coming in another other boat, and then Jim's kind of like torn. Do I let this guy die? I don't want him to die because he has saved me a few times, but he's not really the best of people. So he actually does help Long John get pushed back out into the water, and then
and then
the end of the movie.
Oh,
There
my-
you go.
no.
You just watch Long John
He
go
just-
off
he
into
just
the
awk-
middle of the ocean.
he just awkwardly waves at him, like the movie ends, and it's just like a weird. I wrote it down. I wrote it down like
and then the
a
doctor's
very
like, "You know
awkward
what?
ending.
I kind of hope he makes it.
Yeah, it's a very awkward ending.
I'm just like, what have I just watched?
But yeah, please send us an email, deepdivingthemagicpod@gmail.com if this is your favorite film. Listen, there's other adaptations of this film. For instance, the Treasure Planet that's coming up later on, or Muppets Treasure Island, which I love. There was just multiple times in this movie where I had no idea what was going on. I had multiple times in my notes where I was like, I just don't know what was going on. So any last touches on the movie, or that maybe you understood more, or how about your rating / IMDb's rating?
I rated it a 4 out of 10.
Okay,
I am never gonna watch this again.
I didn't get it.
You could not pay me to
I
watch
didn't.
this again.
I didn't get it.
I hope some people enjoyed it. Obviously, they did, because you would never believe what IMDb rates it.
6.7 probably.
A 6.9.
Yeah. The thing is though, like
don't know.
it did bring pirates to popular lore. The talk was there.
Yeah.
The mannerisms were there. And if they used any of this for the original Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, I love all of that. It took us 2 tries to make it through this movie, and that doesn't happen. It just
I actually, Jeffrey can usually make it through movies that I'm like,
I love movies.
And I'm sitting there thinking that the whole time. And when he finally looked over at me and he's like, I don't know about you, but I can't really watch this anymore. And I was like, oh, thank you, God.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it just wasn't for us. It was whatever. Maybe you love it. It's definitely on the history, so it was good.
I'm just
So
glad I don't ever have to watch it again.
so speaking of never watching it again, how about your list upon a star? What a segue. Go ahead.
My list upon a
Go ahead and
star
read it to
is
us.
not changing. This will not make my list. So my current list is Dumbo, The Three Caballeros, Fantasia, Saludos Amigos, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Bambi, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Cinderella, Melody Time, and Song of the South.
So mine, after a little bit of no moving around because I'm not adding it either, we have Pinocchio at number 1, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, which I'm still second guessing for not putting at number 1. At number 2, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. At number 3, The Three Caballeros, then Cinderella, then Dumbo, then Bambi, then Fun and Fancy Free, then Saludos Amigos, and then So Dear to My Heart. Again, watch it. Maybe you'll love it. I would love to hear if you love it. Thanks for spreading the word. Thanks for everything. Again,
Thanks for sticking it through this
Yeah.
like we had to.
again, YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, email.
Any suggestions?
We'd love to hear 'em.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting us know our pup was cute after last time's storm. She was laying. Oh, she's still laying here right next to us today.
Yeah.
Even this movie put her to sleep. So next time we are doing a movie. We've made it out of 1950. We're going to 1951 into a movie that I am gonna speak much higher on. A movie that I've watched many, 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 many times. I think I used to fall asleep to it every single night, and KJ can back me up on this. When we first started dating, I fall asleep to this movie every single night, and that is from July 28th, 1951, and that is Alice in Wonderland, and I can't wait to talk about Alice in Wonderland.
Yep. So thanks for deep diving the magic.
Bye.
Bye.